Hey, super awesome listeners. Before we get to the show, just want to remind you, you've got 2 weeks left to support our Kickstarter for our super awesome mix conversation cards. That's right, it's the perfect accompaniment to your next party or date. Questions prompt you about your favorite music, your favorite bands, your least favorite bands, your best memories, all sorts of fun stuff. So if you love the podcast, you're going to love the conversation cards. So go to Kickstarter.com, search Super Awesome Mix, and help support our Kickstarter so we can make this happen. Now on to the show. Welcome back to another Super Awesome Mix. My name is Matt Sidholm, alongside my co-host and co-founder of Super Awesome Mix, Samer Abu Salbi. Samer, how are we doing this week?
Doing real well. It's another treat, another favorite mix. Throw it on the pile of all my favorite mixes that we do. And of course, this one is because we've got a guest on the show, as we alluded to in an earlier episode.
Yes. We threw one of this guy's songs on our new music mix recently, and he actually just had another single drop this week. So we're really excited to have him on the show. Our guest today is the lead singer, songwriter, guitarist, and just about everything for Jake Swamp and The Pine. They've been nominated 4 years in a row at the Boston Music Awards for Americana Act of the Year, and twice nominated for the New England Music Awards, once for New Act of the Year and once for Americana Act of the Year. So they just released their third single, Drive, 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 off their upcoming new album, Simpson and Banks. It is Drew Zieff. Drew, welcome to Super Awesome
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super stoked to be here.
Yeah, so, okay, my first question is, your name's Drew, you're the lead singer, and then where did the name of the band come from?
Oh, it's a legend. The previous iteration of the band was me and a mandolin player named Stu. And we toyed around with the idea of being Stu and Drew, but didn't think that people would take that seriously enough. Gauging by your reaction, I think we were spot on.
That sounds like a vaudeville act.
I know.
Yeah.
Or Stu and Drew. It was bad. And we wanted to, be taken somewhat seriously. So we were at an open mic at a club in Cambridge, Mass called Lizard Lounge, which is pretty well renowned for folk Americana. It's kind of like got these really cool cabaret vibes. And we were under pressure to come up with a name before we were going on for the open mic. And we were just furiously Googling things that are representative of Massachusetts, things that are representative of being outside, because that's where a lot of the inspiration comes from. It's how I like to spend my leisure time, is just in the woods, hiking, biking, climbing. The Jake Swamp pine tree is the tallest tree in Massachusetts. And the Jake Swamp pine tree is named after Jake Swamp, who was a really prominent environmentalist. And then, like any indie band name, we just threw a "and the" between between a couple of the nouns, and we got Jake Swamp and the Pine.
Now, I gotta ask, how many people are like, "Oh my gosh, Jake, I love your music"?
Literally, well, I mean, I don't know how many people are like, "Jake, I love your music," but everyone assumes that I am Jake. Hopefully, everyone is like, "Jake, I love your music." But yeah, everyone, I just roll with it in emails. I'm thinking about getting a merch line that just has "Not Jake" written on stickers and T-shirts. Just rolling with it at this point.
I love it.
I like that.
That was when we first heard from you guys. I wrote back and I was like, hey, really enjoyed Jake's music. And then they're like, well, Drew would love to be on the show. And I'm like, well, is Drew like the bass player? Like, what's going on here? And they're like,
is Drew the least important member of the band?
No. What is going on? It's like, wait, no, this guy does everything. No, this is Jake. Hold on a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I do it passively now. I'll sign my name Drew, and I'll just roll with it if people refer to me as Jake. It's just we didn't have the foresight 3-4 years ago. But yeah, I guess Stu and Drew would have avoided that. But now Stu's no longer playing in the band, so that would have been even more confusing.
Right. Then you could have gone with "Not Stu" as your
Stu. Yeah, exactly.
As your merch.
Still would have worked. Still would have worked.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's dive into this mix, of course.
Sure.
You made us an amazing mixtape, and Matt and I were talking about it as we normally do. We text or talk about the mixes that we get, and we both really like this one.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good. Like we've talked about maybe having like I've been wanting to do like a fall mix. We've done like a winter, summer, and like a spring mix, and we never have done a fall one. But I feel like this could stand in as like kind of a fall mix. Like I just get like that. I get a lot of that vibe from it, so I really liked it.
Thank you.
But with that, let's get into it. So I'm going to introduce your first track here on the mix, and it is "The Rote and the Right" by Johnny Flynn.
Yeah, I first actually got introduced to Johnny Flynn because he wrote the theme song for one of my favorite TV shows called The Detectorists. It's a British TV drama comedy about two metal detectorists in this like rural. It's so mundane, but it's like the cinematography is amazing and it's just like really clever. And he wrote the theme song, which is called The Detectorists, and it's an incredible song. And then it kind of led me down the path of his discography, and he's just one of my favorite singer-songwriters. I think he was like a classically trained, like Shakespearean actor and musician. So I love how that tends to come across in his lyrics, and I think this is one of the songs that like really grabbed my attention after the theme song the Detectorists did.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that show sounds like something I got to go check out. I'm very intrigued.
It's amazing.
It sounds awesome. B, yeah, like it's funny. I think I'm going to keep saying this throughout this entire mix. I loved a lot of the lyrics. I think like many of these songs just have beautiful, beautiful, well-written lyrics. It's like poetry. Like this song in particular, like it's something that reminded me that would play in like a Wes Anderson film, which like it has that vibe, right? Which coming from, I mean, I love Wes Anderson, so I mean that as like the highest of compliments because I feel like he's got really eclectic music tastes and they work really well in his films. So, but yeah, that's really cool to know that. I didn't know that about about him writing a theme song to this, amazing sounding show. I love that.
It's really cool. There's actually one scene in the show where there's like an open mic at the bar that they go, and Johnny Flynn has a cameo in. He's doing. Nice. He's one of the open mic performers, and he's performing the theme song. But yeah, he's a multi instrumentalist, phenomenal lyricist. I think he's focusing a little more on acting now. He's been in like a couple, like Emma, I think was like a big motion picture that he was just in. There's another bank heist movie that I think his attention is focused more on the acting side of things. So he hasn't been putting out as much music as of recent. But yeah, he's been one of my favorite musicians and inspirations for quite a while. Phenomenal finger picker. Just a really, really good musician and writer.
It's crazy how insanely talented some people are. Like that, where it's just like, oh, I don't want to make like music everybody loves. I'll just go act in some movies and TV shows for a little bit, and then maybe I'll come back to this. I don't know.
Yeah, he's also in what is one of my favorite TV shows called Lovesick, which is on Netflix.
Oh yes, I love Lovesick. That's a good one. That one I'm familiar with. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's the main character, Dylan, I think, or something in that TV show.
Nice. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. I love Johnny Flynn. If you can't tell.
All right, Drew, your second track, you went with Josephine by Brandi Carlile.
Yeah. So, I mean, Brandi is probably, I know I just said Johnny Flynn's my biggest inspiration. I would say Brandi Carlile is probably like the Northern Star for me in terms of like career paths that I'd like to follow. I don't even know where she's just one of my favorite musicians of all time. I think she's one of the greatest modern day, if not greatest ever, songwriters. This is just like a beautiful song. And I think her band, which is now like a stadium touring band, used to be just her and these two set of twins. And they just, started out kind of doing like a lot of like these really beautiful ballady 3-part harmony songs. And this is one of my favorites of those. Lyrics are amazing. The harmonies are incredible. I love Brandi. I just saw Brandi Carlile actually a couple weeks ago in Boston. And it was incredible. She's unbelievable.
Yeah, I feel like she's someone who is just starting to get her due, and she's been around for a while, but Yeah, now it's like I think she was on SNL about a year or so ago,
Yeah.
and you know we featured her on a new music mix earlier this year. I've just
Oh, awesome.
you're spot on with the songwriting's just incredible. Like the lyric I picked from this one was the midnight moon shines so bright, nearly pulled us up to heaven by the strings of our heart, and I was like, wow, that's incredible, you know. And that's what when I hear her music, I'm always like just really listening intently to the lyrics because
Yeah.
I just think she does such a good job of writing.
Yeah. And I like also as a singer, one of the things that I do, or I guess default to, and my vocal styling is like those are intentional like voice cracks, and she does like a lot of that in her singing as well. I just just phenomenal lyricist, and the twins in her band are awesome because they're like identical twins, so they have the same voice, which is like a really cool element when it comes to like harmonies and stuff like that.
So I have
Yeah,
to
that's true.
ask, I was just listening to your new single yesterday and I noticed the voice crack. And
Yeah.
is that something you learn or is that something you just are able to do vocally? How does that work?
I don't know. It was just, I have no idea. Not to sound like arrogant, it's just
No,
like part
that's
of like
okay.
how I sung. I didn't like learn or intentionally do it. I guess it like, you know, I don't have like a fast voice, so I can't do like riffs or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think everyone has like a different vocal styling, and I kind of think that I lean on like the grittier, more intense style, and I think with that came like, you know, doing those voice cracks. But it's funny you picked up. I love doing that. I think it's like it sounds great.
Well, I heard it and it sounds great. And I'm like, and not that I'm a professional singer, but I'm like, I don't think I can make my voice crack. My voice will crack, but I'm like, could I do that? And then I just wondered, like, in the studio, is a producer just like, stop, do it again? Like, you know, or they just
Yeah,
kind of let it roll.
it's funny because whenever I had recorded in the past, it actually becomes a little bit more confusing because part of like the studio and tracking process for some people is like pitch alterations. So like in some takes, like they can do like a little pitch alteration here and there, and it always confuses the studio engineer when we have to do pitch alteration at a moment where I do the voice crack, because it just like it doesn't register that well as a note. So it's always funny seeing how frustrated Josh gets whenever he has to do pitch alterations, which isn't often. You know, no pitch alterations needed for when I sing. But yeah, it's always funny seeing Josh spiral a little.
That's great.
I mean, I'm well into my 30s and I can do voice cracks all day long. So
yeah, it just never goes away.
Never goes away. Still working through puberty all these years later. It's great.
Aren't we all?
Right. Let's move on to the next track. This is actually, I think this might be my favorite off of the mix. Oh my gosh. Like, so it's The Modern Leper by Frightened Rabbit. And it just, I mean, it broke my heart. And the more I dug into the background and the singer, unfortunately, who died, you know, and the last tweets he sent, I mean, just everything, like it added so much power to this song too, which already was so powerful. But yeah, tell me about this song.
So yeah, Modern Leper, I think it is a beautiful song. I think Scott Hutchinson writes a lot about like, I mean, he was one of the most honest songwriters that I've ever listened to. And I think this song's a lot about just like him not feeling essentially like worthy of love, or a character not feeling like they're worthy of love and kind of falling apart internally. And how could someone love someone who's falling apart internally and breaking down? And I think it's just such a beautiful song. And for me, I personally tend to gravitate more towards like acoustic singer songwriters. Frightened Rabbit is not that to me at all. Like they have some acoustic singer songwriter songs, but it's kind of more like, it's like almost punky. It's like really intense, really depressing and sad. And it's not typically the music that I gravitate towards, but for some reason I've just always adored Frightened Rabbit. And I think this is like a really great representation of Frightened Rabbit, where it's like fast, upbeat, like instrumentally and harmonically kind of fun, but then the lyrics themselves are like super, super sad.
Right. Yeah, I love your description of that song, because like musically it had that very intense power.
Right.
Like it builds, like it was one of these songs honestly that I found myself closing my eyes and just letting like the music kind of like really wash over me, and that's rare, like a song just does that. But then as I mentioned, like digging into the lyrics, and he's talking, I think, truly about someone, I'm guessing, like dealing with depression, and like the modern leper is like someone who's like really struggling with depression, and it's like it's hard to be around those people, and then that can make your depression even worse. And wow, like it again added so much power to a song that already just made me want to close my eyes and just really feel it, and just how powerful it was musically. So I was so thrilled to find this. It was like mixed feelings, right? I was really thrilled to find it, but then I was just so sad listening to it. But it's such an amazing song that it's incredible work.
Yeah, it was I was just checking because I forgot if I put "Swim Until You Can't See Land" on there, which is another one of my favorite Frightened Rabbit songs. But yeah, they're I think he is. It's really sad because I think, like, re-listening to all of his songs, like, they are really sad and really honest and raw, and then kind of understanding what happened to Scott. It just, I don't know, like it makes those songs honest in a way that I think like a lot of music isn't, in a weird sort of way. But yeah, was one of my. I mean, Frightened Rabbit is still one of my favorite bands of all time. And yeah, this I think again is like a great introduction and representation of their music. So if people like this, it's worth diving into kind of like their entire discography. I mean, that Midnight Organ Fight album is amazing. Winter of Mixed Drinks is another really great album. Huge fan.
All right, so track 4. And this middle part of the mix, you kind of throw it back a little bit. We get some older bands here, but the first one is "The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down" by The Band.
I thought this was a throwback, or a little, not a throwback, like a little bit of a curveball. I think like I do draw a lot of inspiration from traditional Americana music, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell, The Band. I love the Grateful Dead, love any spinoff of the Grateful Dead. I don't know, I just love this song by The Band. I think it's groovy, it's fun. I think they're some of the greatest storytellers in their lyrics, like this. I also used to play drums and sing in a band, so I have a lot of respect for Levon Helm and what he does. And yeah, I like, not a ton for me to say on this. I think it's such a great song. It's like one of those songs that everyone screams the chorus to. Yeah. And everyone knows the chorus to, but then goes like really quiet on all of the verses because no one knows the verses. But I think The Band is just, again, like for me, like a huge inspiration. And I love how they are as storytellers.
Yeah, that was really the note I wrote after listening to some of your music. And then the second this one started, I was like, oh yeah, The Band's got to be a pretty good influence on this guy. Like I could see the through line there, which was awesome because I love The Band. I love their music, but I really saw the connection there. And like you said, this is one kind of everybody knows, but nobody really knows that it's really kind of a unique story because they tell it from the perspective of like this Southerner at the end of the Civil War. So it's a very different story from maybe a lot of songs out there about kind of Americana. Like people don't, it's not a celebration of this person, right? It's really just them sort of reflecting on their life, but it is a very unique perspective.
Yeah, and just like instrumentally and harmonically, like I just love the groove of the song. Obviously some classic band harmonies in there. I think for me a lot about putting the mix together was like, I have all of these bands that I love, and what's like the one song that's the epitome of why I love this band. And to me, there were a lot that I could have done with The Band. But this was it for me, I think.
I also love just in general, the audacity of anyone calling themselves like The Band. I feel like you can only do that one time. Like that's it, and it worked. They took it.
they made it there. There's also, what's that? There's a band, it's like an 80 like British post-punk band or something. I don't know. But there's only so many bands that can pull that off. And I think they can.
Yeah, it definitely works for them. I like it. All right. So track 5, you went with "Wildflowers" by Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris.
Yeah. I mean, again, like picking songs that you know are the epitome or like the the main reason or like a good representation of why I love a particular artist. Like this one for me, I love Dolly Parton. I think anyone in the Americana country scene has at least a ton of respect for Dolly Parton, if not more now because of who she is as a person. Yeah, I just love this song. It's like one of those songs that I really wish that I wrote this. Just because like, I don't know, I do a lot of hiking and, I often think like, you're in the middle of the woods and all of a sudden you like go into this field and you're like, 5,000 feet above sea line. And then there's just like these beautiful, stunning wildflowers and just like personifying wildflowers and, wildflowers don't care where they grow. I just think it's like so clever. Not to mention there's 3 absolute legends on this particular version. But yeah, I love Dolly Parton and I love this song in particular. It's so upbeat and optimistic and beautiful. And I love the imagery too of just like, wildflowers just, hanging out on a mountain.
Yeah, I loved this like thematically. I exactly everything you just said, like letting yourself be free and like how you thrive when you feel
Right.
free, in the same way that like wildflowers, like, as you said, don't care where they grow. The line that I was going to call out as well. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
I also, made me laugh because I just think about how difficult it is to like grow a house plant. It's like you bring them indoor and it's like, no matter what you do, they're going to die. And you're like, man, like you are out in the freezing temperatures and this and that. And like, you're thriving. And then it's like, you try to bring it indoor in a controlled environment and it just all goes to crap. And so I think that's also a metaphor. It's like we sometimes just need to let things be, and stop trying to control their environment.
You leave your apartment for 48 hours, it's dead.
Right, exactly.
That's a really cool, I hadn't thought about it like that actually. That's a really cool perspective. Trying to like cage or like domesticate something that doesn't want to be domesticated and how that, that's awesome. I hadn't thought about that actually.
Well, it's a struggle every year here in our apartment. We have a lot of plants that we're like just constantly trying to keep alive. But yeah, I really love this song. And as you said, I mean, Dolly Parton is a legend. I mean, she's unbelievable. And I enjoy this song a lot. I love the hope behind it and everything she's singing about.
Yeah, no, I love Dolly. And also like, again, she's an amazing person, individual. She's done a lot of like philanthropy and, again, like if there's, being a musician and being on that level isn't just about being a musician. It's all about like your contribution. I think, again, she's like a phenomenal Northern star for like, if I were to make it to that point and have those means, like how I kind of would want to live my life as a, so I again, like love her as like a musician, but also just as like an artist and, her place and role in society.
All right, so track 6, you go with Sugar Magnolia by the Grateful Dead.
Again, like I love so in 2013, I went to a Fish concert and that sent me down a spiral of like jam bands are pretty cool. And then I ended up finding out that not that you have to choose between the Grateful Dead and Fish, but I went down like the route of kind of like more traditional, although there is like people butt heads in that community.
They are brutal. 2 distinct camps, right? Yeah, they kind of are. They kind of are, yeah.
I think there's a lot of overlap, but then there's the people that are like, the Fish are, just trying to do what the Dead did. And then there's people that are like, well, the Fish are doing it better. And I don't think either of those things are true. I just like the Grateful Dead a little more because I think I don't know, it's more traditional Americana to me and rock. And I don't know, this is just like a song that like anyone I think can like dance to and enjoy, like even if you aren't a big Grateful Dead tune. I also chose one that was a studio version, not a live version, almost because of that. I think a lot of people gravitate more towards Grateful Dead live. I love the studio albums. And this American Beauty is an absolute classic. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's just the groove. Half the time I never know what the Grateful Dead's talking about lyrically. But I just love this song. It's just such a fun song.
Well, I'm glad to hear you as a fan don't sometimes understand what they're talking about, because I'm not as big a fan, and not that I don't like them, I'm just not like deep into it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would not. And so but the songs I listen to, sometimes I'm like, what are they talking about? So great to hear that someone who's more familiar with their catalog has that same feeling. That makes me feel better. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is a great one, and interesting. You mentioned the live versions, because in researching this, I guess they kind of do this in two parts, and
Mhm.
sometimes like the second part they will hold until a show later in the week sometimes. Like so,
Yeah, they do.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, they are, I think, one of the most creative, successful live bands. I mean, they just this would require a fact check, but I would be surprised if they didn't have not played like throughout their career the most amount of live shows of any band. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think like they are one of the most creative live bands of all time. Like, they always they always transition songs like while they're still playing, and just like the theatrics. That's another reason that I really like them and like listening to their live stuff too, is it's always different. Every song, every show has always been different, which is really exciting. And I think that's why people love them so much, is they like it. It feels like you've never uh, completely gone through their discography, because there's always
Right.
some different version of some song from some different year in some different country,
Right.
which is really cool to me.
It is. Yeah. It makes me think a lot about just like that really is kind of the power sometimes of live music. And some musicians do that very
Right,
well. And others, it's like very much, it's like you get the exact same show down to the minute,
right.
it's like, and that's fine, it's different styles, but yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and that's something that I also I try to, at the very least, reorder set lists every time, even if I'm kind of like repurposing the same songs. Like that's something that's an element that I've tried to bring to from like the jam band scene, is just like switching up the set list every time. Sometimes it just becomes like a reordering, but it's fun for me, and like it also changes the vibe, right? Because like if a really energetic song always comes after a really sad song, I'll tend to play it the same way. But if I flip
Right.
those,
Mm.
then like they feel different, and they elicit different emotions. Like, because if you're going from really happy to really sad, it's different than going from like really sad to really happy.
Yeah.
So like that's something that I also try to bring in when I'm like creating, like the craft and attention to set lists, I guess, is kind of like the big takeaway for me from like a lot of those jam bands.
I love that. Yeah. Um, all right, let's move on to track number 7 here, and it is Angel from Montgomery by John Prine.
I mean, it's John fucking. Can I swear? I
Yes, we do. We do occasionally do that on the show.
You can
Yes,
do that. Yeah, go
that's
for
fine.
Okay, I was gonna say it's John fucking Prine. I mean, there's not a lot. This is like one of my favorite songs. I love all the artists that cover this. I love all the artists that tend to like do duets with him. Again, he is kind of like the father of, or one of the parental figures within the Americana roots folk space, and just was a really, really great guy. And this is just a stunning song. It's just beautiful. Yeah, I haven't covered this one yet, but I would love to. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you can't be an Americana folk musician without having a certain amount of respect, if not being an extreme fangirl over, or fan person over, John Prine.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. Like the listening to this song is another one where it's like you are living in the words that
Right.
he's singing about.
Yeah, exactly.
He paints like such a strong picture. I felt like really deeply connected with this, this character, this woman who's like, I imagine just standing there like thinking about her life and maybe the regrets in
Mhm.
her life and like all the different things that have turned out, and again, like you live it, and I think that's
Right.
such a power to how it's sung and the words he's choosing, and it's just, yeah, it's amazing. I really loved this song, and I really hope this person's day gets better, because I just felt so at the end of it, I was like, you're okay, lady, it's all good.
Yeah.
Everything's gonna be okay.
No, it's a beautiful song. I also think it's cool like how much this song has lived beyond too. Like, Bonnie Raitt covers it. Like, there's a number of artists that cover this song. And I think that's also really powerful, to write a song that is like it's a staple, is a standard, I think, within folk and Americana music. And I love the song. Yeah, it's an amazing song. And again, like I couldn't not have John Prine on a playlist that represents like my music taste and desert island songs.
That's great. That's great. All right, track 8, you've got The Stable Song by Gregory Alan Isakov.
Yeah, again, another one of my all-time favorite singer-songwriters. This song I think also like recently became like Instagram or TikTok. I don't know, but yeah, I absolutely love this song. I think there's like a lyric that's like threw a stone at the sky and the whole stars, threw a stone at the stars and the whole sky fell, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't know, that lyric just always sticks with me. But yeah, again, one of my all-time favorite singer-songwriters.
Yeah, and like researching, I'm born in South Africa and then moved to Denver, Colorado. And so kind of an interesting, when I was listening to it, I was like, his voice is, it's definitely sounded Americana, but there was something different about it. And so it was interesting to look back and see that, he had those South African roots.
Yeah.
It kind of added a little something to his voice, I think. But yeah, I love the sound of this one. And you're right, the lyrics, I mean, just, I don't know, everything about it. It was really good. I wasn't as familiar with him before, so I'm really interested to kind of dig into his catalog a little bit.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I think he's definitely the real deal when it comes to, again, like modern, current day Americana singer songwriters. Yeah, just like, I don't know, lyrically, whenever I listen to music and there's a lot of moments where I'm just like, how the hell do you think of this? And I feel like that happens more often than not. More often with this guy than with Gregory Alan Isakov than other people. Yeah, big fan.
So track 9, I wrote in all caps.
Isakov.
This is one of my all-time favorites because I was so excited to see this on your mix. So this is All My Days by Alexi Murdoch.
Yeah. I just, again, man, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm a broken record with a lot of these, like, one of my favorite all-time singer-songwriters. Love the lyrics on this. This is, again, one of those songs that I just really wish that I wrote. I just love the finger-picking pattern, the melody, the harmonics, or harmony and kind of like instrumentation. It's just a beautiful song. Again, another phenomenal lyricist that I think deserves a lot more attention than he may be currently getting. But yeah, just a huge fan of this guy, and again, particularly this song. You're familiar? Yeah. You were familiar with Alexi Murdoch?
I was, yeah. I mean, funny enough, I was introduced to him, I think, by the OC, because I think one of his songs was featured on I think either season 1 or season 2, and actually that like soundtrack is really good for that show, at least the first season.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was Orange Sky. It might have been like the song that they used. And so then I just started, I was like, I loved his voice on that track. And then I just started listening to everything that he's done, and I've consumed all of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this is a song that I've been listening to ever since I've heard it for the first time. And it's like, every time I hear it, I'm enjoying it as if for the first time again. Like, it's just one of these magical songs that I also could just never get tired of. And I think it's everything you said. It's just like, it's his voice, it's the melody. I mean, it's just everything is so beautiful. The lyrics are, again, draw you in and just tell the story. And so, yeah, I was really happy to see this on here. I agree. He needs more accolades for sure.
It's funny, like the OC, same with like One Tree Hill. The soundtracks of those shows are ridiculous. They're so good.
Yeah.
Scrubs. I think Scrubs has probably one of my favorites.
We've referenced Scrubs before. Yeah. So many good songs from the Scrubs soundtrack.
God. I think that's who I got introduced to a ton of art. I think Josh Ritter, I got introduced. Mm-hmm. There's that moment. Well, no, I forget. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Scrubs, but I think it's like Winter Days or something, that Joshua Ritter song that they're playing when Dr. oh my God, I forget all of their names now. So this is probably a pointless reference.
When that guy on that show does that thing,
the guy on the show,
they do the
it's
cell
like
phone commercial now.
Yeah, it's the doctor that's like super mean. I forget, Dr. Cox, I think.
Yeah, Dr. Cox, that's right.
His wife's brother, played by Brendan Fraser, passes away,
Right.
and he's like he's in the cemetery in the graveyard. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but he's in the cemetery and in the graveyard, and he's like still talking to him. And that song by Joshua Ritter plays. But to bring it back, yes, OC, One Tree Hill, Scrubs, like those shows have some of the greatest soundtracks of any TV show. So it does. I didn't know that this song was featured, or he was featured on the OC, but that would make a ton of sense. I tried to relate it and bring it back. Otherwise, that was just like me meandering and messing up references to Scrubs.
All good. We got editors. That's okay. It's all right. We're good.
Perfect. They can make me sound smart.
All right. Track 10, you've got Motion Sickness by Phoebe Bridgers.
This album is like an ugly cry album for me. It's an album that you put on and sit in your room with headphones and you just kind of like listen. And it's just some of the most heart-wrenching songs ever. Funeral is, I'm like, she opens up one of the songs. It's like I'm singing at a friend of, like, about singing at a funeral of someone her age that passed away and from her old town. And the whole album is just unbelievable. That's a desert island album for me. This was the song off that album that I was like, if people are unfamiliar with Phoebe Bridgers and needed some song to reel them in, it would probably be this one. I think it's one of her more if not most popular ones. But again, like, I don't know, emotional motion sickness is just such a cool tagline. It's a little more like tempo than some of her other songs too. But yeah, this whole album, this is my late night ugly cry album.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, just listening to it, even if you didn't like, this is something that if it was sung in a foreign language, just the sound of her voice,
right?
Feel the emotion. I wouldn't even have to understand every word to kind of understand like what she's going through. That's what's so amazing about her voice. And the lyric I call out here is, there are no words in the English language I can scream to drown you out. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, wow, like, talk about someone going through something, you know?
Yeah, she's just a beautifully, no, you're totally right. Because her voice is this, like, it's calming. She's like singing about, it's just a cool juxtaposition. Because exactly like you said, like, she's so angry in this song. Like it's like so angry and resentful, but she's delivering it with such a calm demeanor that you're like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. It is. There's so much power to that. That's like whenever, like a kid, it's like when your parents are so angry that they're not even yelling anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh gosh, like I've really done it now.
I got that a lot when I was a kid.
That's awesome.
But yeah, this whole, if folks listening are unfamiliar or really like this whole album, Stranger in the Alps, worth listening to from start to finish in order.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. I really like this one. So let's take us home here. Track 11, home stretch, and you went with Jordan by Joy Oladokum. If I'm pronouncing that right?
Joy Oladokum. This is a new. Oladokum. This was actually an artist that I'm admittedly unfamiliar, like a little more unfamiliar with. I recently heard her for the first time, probably within the last couple months, and immediately like felt like I just loved it. I think this was the first song that I heard by her, and then started kind of following her career trajectory, which is exploding. She like recently just put out a song with Chris Stapleton, I think, and Noah Kahan, and just an unbelievable singer-songwriter. And this song in particular is like, the production's amazing. The lyrics are incredible. And again, like, admittedly, I'm a little more unfamiliar with her history and her discography, so I'm still diving in. But this song has been like on heavy rotation for me within the last couple months.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm also a broken record with, like, as I said, with your mix, because again, like, the lyrics are just so powerful.
Yeah.
And I just think, she's talking about this experience of kind of, if I'm understanding correctly, it's I think just like kind of being rejected by religion, but finding
Yeah.
love, finding God through love anyway. And I think
Yep.
that, like, that's something that, a lot of people unfortunately experience. It's like
Yeah.
you're supposed to be part of this group that accepts you, but instead they reject you. But then you find, again, like, I think, like, the spirituality and the core of what it is. So it's like separating out the institution from, like, the spirituality. And that is, something that I've thought a lot about in my own life. And so to have it all kind of like in a song here was really powerful for me to listen to, because,
Yeah.
I can't talk about it as eloquently as she's like singing about it so well on this song. So I just think that it's like amazing, and a lot of, again, really powerful imagery that comes through in this. So really loved this pick.
Yeah. I similarly feel like I sound like a broken record, but I would highly suggest folks dive in on her full discography. I am still doing it. And it's just, she's incredible. And again, like, I think she's going to be doing really, really, I mean, she's already doing big things, but I think she was supposed to come to Boston, and like was one of those artists that like booked the show, and then within the time between booking the show and having the show had an explosion of fan base, and that I'm pretty sure they had to reschedule at like a larger venue. So like, I think she's going to be a big, I would be surprised if in the next year and a half, it's not another household name and like singer, songwriter, folk. Yeah, I really, really love her.
All right, so track 12, you got When My Time Comes by Dawes.
Yeah, Dawes. So Dawes is one of those bands that like I always come back to. I think Frightened Rabbit, Dawes are bands that like I've just loved for a really, really long time, but don't listen to like all the time. And again, Dawes is kind of like another huge inspiration for me. Like modern day Americana rock. Like I love the production of a lot of their songs. Like it feels like you're just sitting in a room with a band and you're listening to them play. And I just love the refrain on this, like the vocal melody, how it's sung. And I don't know, this song like also just thematically resonates with me a lot. When my time comes, like feeling like it'll happen eventually, but and I don't know. I love everything about Dawes in this particular song.
Yeah, I really like this one. The lyric I called out here is, the only piece of advice that seems to help is anyone that's making something new only breaks something else. And I was like, that's a cool line. It's just a way to phrase that. It's a great way of thinking of things. I just loved it.
Yeah, I love when people, I do that sometimes, like writing about the creative process, I think is always really helpful. There's one of the songs actually on my new album is called I Tried to Get High and Write a Song. And it's just, it was a song that like, sometimes when I'm feeling like I have writer's block or haven't written something, I'll just start writing about writer's block and like describing how it feels. And usually those songs are terrible, but there's one on this album called I Tried to Get High and Write a Song, which I didn't think was terrible. And ended up recording. But I think it's always really cool to hear people like write about the creative process. And is a really good example of that.
That's awesome. We have, it's like let's call it a baker's dozen here. So
I know,
track 13.
I didn't know if
I
didn't know if it was expected to put your own song on there. So I threw mine on there as well. I didn't know if people do that, or
some people do, some people don't. Yeah, we're all kind of surprised. I'm like, yeah, I like it because I'm like, yeah, promote your stuff. That's what you're here to do.
Yeah,
so I love it.
I threw it on there just in case.
Yeah, so of course the song we're referencing is "Empty Stomachs and Bloodshot Eyes" by Jake Swamp and the Pine. So Jake, he makes some great music here.
That guy Jake
make it, but Drew's here.
Yeah, I'm filling in for Jake. That'll be my line now. That'll be my line when people can.
filling in for Jake. That's awesome. But yeah, this was pretty cool. I mean, we actually just featured this on our new music
Oh,
mix.
thank
Matt put
you.
this. Yeah, you're very welcome. And we discuss how much we love it. And again, like
Thanks.
I love the vibe of a lot of your music as we've been listening to it. It's just like kind of escaping the
Yeah.
city, being in nature, like communing with the world a little bit more. And we talked about the imagery in this one that really does, again, a very good job. And I think it
Thank
sits very
you.
nicely alongside all these other tracks.
Yeah, this was fun for a number of reasons. One, just like it references like specific stories and incidents like in high school and stuff, because it's a lot. This one's like really, to me, came out of a place of like feeling nostalgic and feeling overwhelmed with responsibility, and just like wishing that when I was in high school and college, you have your responsibilities. I worked, I made my own money in high school. I, went to classes. I did well enough in school. But ultimately, like, I didn't have to pay rent. I didn't have to worry about health insurance and all that bullshit. And this song came from a place of like, I wish that 17 to 20-year-old Drew lived a little bit more with that mentality in mind. And yeah, there's some like really like, the second verse is like a really specific story. Like, me and my two friends, who I won't name, were partaking in substances that would were decriminalized at the time in the state of Massachusetts, and would be burned and inhaled. And we were at my friend's house and thought that we were being sly, so we smoked outside, came inside, and his mom, who's amazing, came downstairs, and she was like at first giving us a hard time, but she's like, you guys, I could smell that. I'm calling the cops. And she was like kind of like messing with us, but also I think like disappointed, as a parent should be in their 17-year-old. And it was her, my friend's stepdad, or her partner, and my friend's brother. And they kind of give us this whole spiel, and then they look at the three of us and they go like, what do you have to say for yourself? And my friend, whose house we were at, just falls down on the floor and starts laughing hysterically. And then he's like, well, I know my brother smokes weed and Mark smokes weed and it's whatever. And he's just like, did not handle it well. My other friend was like, well, if we think about the role of marijuana in society, and he starts going off in this like really like speech and stuff like that. And like, about how weed is, viewed inappropriately and it's really okay. And then they go, Drew, what about you? What do you have to say for yourself? And I'm like, I didn't smoke. And it's something that I just denied. And it's something that we, still joke about to this day. So that second verse, came downstairs, thought we were on blast, but you broke down and laughed. Just like, in the moment, it was like, it felt stressful and stuff like that, but like it was inconsequential in that specific incident. And just like missing those kind of those days and those feelings.
That's great. Yeah, we thought the song did a great job of like both of us kind of experienced that nostalgia of our own, either teenage or early 20s days. So yeah, I think you did a great job of that, even without knowing that specific story. So when does the new album come out?
The new album comes out on December 14th.
Perfect.
Very excited.
Okay. So just in time for Christmas. Everybody can go
just
out
in time for Christmas.
Buy it, stream it, play it at your holiday parties, all of that. Okay. So that'll be perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And giving us your super awesome mix. Now, where can people find more about Jake Swamp and the Pine?
Yeah. So jakeswamp.com. And then I am also like pretty active on Instagram. Just Jake Swamp is the handle. And then also, Spotify, all major streaming services. They just released another single 2 days ago, Drive, 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 which is my favorite song on the track. So that's also available for streaming. But yeah, jakeswamp.com has all of those links and stuff, tour and all that fun information as well.
Perfect. And we'll include the link in our show notes for this one. But
thank you.
Thank you again. So Sam and I have plenty of other mixes to work on, so we'll get to work on that. And so for Drew and Samra, this is Matt, and we'll see you next time. Super Awesome Mix is brought to you by DLM. Make shopping easy with DLM, the one-stop shop for all your casual clothing needs. Shop DLMsupplyco.com and enter the promo code AWESOME at checkout to save 15% off your first purchase. That's DLMsupplyco.com.